It's March of 2021. I was looking through Steam, trying to find some good deals on games. At the time, everything was on sale. There was a few interesting games that had caught my eye, but nothing actually intrigued me as much as Killing Floor 2. This was a game I came across on a Steam sale. I remember the first time I saw it on sale for £5, I was like, oh, that looks good, I'll give it a go. Keep in mind, I've never played Killing Floor at all up until this point, and I remember when purchasing the game, it was literally like 90 gigabytes in size. I thought to myself, fucking hell, that's big. So I told myself I'll probably only play it once and then uninstall it to save the space. But little did I know just what was going to happen once I started playing. I instantly got addicted to the game. I don't know what happened, but something just clicked that day. Whether it was similar to COD Zombies or what, I don't know what happened. I just got instantly addicted. And before I knew it, I ended up getting over 1,000 hours on this one game. Killing Floor 2 quickly became one of my favourite games of all time. I even purchased Killing Floor 1 just to play that as well. And I ended up sinking hundreds of hours into Killing Floor 2. Now, one of the biggest changes in Killing Floor 2 is the perk system and how that works. Killing Floor 2 has a total of 10 perks. Some of them are trash killers like Firebug and Berserker for taking out crowds. Others are quite heavy big Z perks like Sharpshooter, Demo, Gunslinger, which is actually an extension from Sharpshooter. That's its own separate perk. And new perks were actually added to the game like SWAT, Survivalist. Survivalist is basically like a hybrid. Every single perk, you can basically merge like all the skills together from all perks and you get Survivalist, well most of them anyway. You can pretty much like create your own custom perk if you will. Some perks like Berserker even had an upgrade from Killing Floor 1, the ability to parry attacks, and there's even a skill in Killing Floor 2, if you parry you actually get more damage. Even the old features of the perk return, like the ability to not get grabbed by Zeds, which is a really nice thing to have. Every single perk has a unique grenade, like nail bombs for the Gunslinger, the ice grenades for Sharpshooter. Everything that fits the perk, like Sharpshooter's ice grenades, which allow you to land headshots a lot easier. There's basically two pistol options, so you've got a 9mm and you've also got a 93R. And every single perk also has a unique knife, even though it's not really useful. Every perk does start off with a unique starting weapon, which basically gets you started in the early ways to basically build up your arsenal to become more powerful later down the line. So Commando, for example, has an AR-15, Support has an SG-500. You don't need to be high levels anymore to unlock the starting weapons, unlike Killing Floor 1. And every perk pretty much has its passive bonuses like Stalker Visibility, health bars for Commando. You even get more XP for killing certain Zeds as perks. So you actually get more XP by killing stalkers as Commando. And not many people know this, but some perks like Commando, for example, even have a night vision mode by holding down F. And whilst this feature is sort of useless later down the line, darker maps like Burning Paris definitely do need it. It's a nice feature. In terms of perk progression, it has been increased to 25, which is a lot higher than Killing Floor 1's 6 levels. It is easier to gain levels in Killing Floor 2, but every 5 levels actually has a choice of 2 skills. And the way Killing Floor 2's perks work, you can only choose 1 skill every 5 levels. You do get a choice of 2, which is either better reloading speed, bigger magazine, Z-time bonuses, one of those. When you do reach level 25, you do get some crazy overpowered skills like the ability to run fast in Z-time with Berserker, nuke with a Demo, shoot fast with the Gunslinger, something that gives you like a crazy advantage. And the more Killing Floor 2 went on, the more I feel like the perks have lost their distinct role a little, because any perk can basically do anything, like take on a big Z. But this has to do a lot with the HRG and DLC guns. Now I do see this as a good thing, as every perk is equal, every perk has a chance of killing a big Z. In Killing Floor 1, Firebug wasn't really that good at taking down flesh pounds. You had the flare revolvers, but they weren't that great. You had to rely on a sharpshooter, for example. But I also like this feature, as perks have their pros and cons to them. It also encourages more teamwork, as you had to rely on other perks like Sharpshooter to take down a flesh pound. And whilst I do like this, at the same time I don't really mind the feature of all perks being equal. Now, one of my favourite things about Killing Floor 2 is the gun variety. You've got the choice of pistols, shotguns, snipers, assault rifles, machine guns, sci-fi weapons, explosive, flamethrowers. Literally anything you can think of, Killing Floor 2 has it. And all the perks in the game have at least 20 guns in their arsenal, which you can choose from, in all shapes and sizes, some modern, some old, or futuristic. However, I do find this a bit of an issue. I think in SWAT, for example, I only choose the same 2 weapons every time, meaning the other guns are hardly used at all. And the thing is, most of the guns they added are either overpowered or complete crap, making them inferior to other choices. And once you know what is best, what's the best loadout to use, you don't really experiment with anything else. And all the guns that they added end up becoming bloat. It ends up clogging up the traders as like loads of weapons under one list, so you have to basically scroll and try and find the one you're looking for, even though I do appreciate the amount of gun choices it provides. And one of my biggest issues with the weapons in Killing Floor 2 is the HRG stuff. Most HRG weapons are pretty much just reskins of already existing weapons, like HRG Nailgun, which is literally the exact same thing as the Berserker Nailgun, but it shoots in full auto. That's it. There's even the HRG Medic Missile, which is literally just the RPG. Another gun that makes no sense is the 93R pistol. It's a HRG gun for some reason. All it does is shoot and burst. So there's literally firearms in real life that shoot and burst but aren't HRG, so why is it a HRG weapon? It should have been a normal gun in my opinion, but I guess they just wanted like some HRG weapon to get out. Now, speaking of HRG weapons, another set of weapons I do have a problem with is the DLC guns. Some of them were extremely overpowered, paid to win, like the Glock 18C, which paired with Rack 'em Up absolutely destroyed everybody. Either that or they were completely underpowered, like the Mine Reconstructor, which isn't so bad now, but it's just something I don't even consider using. Just as a quick side rant, I decided to make DLC weapons for 2022 separate. So if you own the Armory Pass, you had to pay it again for more DLC guns, which made literally no sense at all. Another issue I have with the guns is the animations and sounds. Now, some of the weapons, like the revolvers, had amazing tactical reload animations. They were actually mocapped by soldiers and firearm experts. They still look amazing to this day, actually. They were actually mocapped at 200 FPS as well, making them really smooth. However, later on, the quality dropped massively. You could tell from like DLC stuff and the new guns. They looked okay, but didn't have that satisfying smooth animation to them. Even some of the newer guns sounded really weird. They didn't really have much impact. I remember they changed the MG3 sound actually in the last Hand Standing update. Sounds okay now, but it's could be better. And going back to perks in Killing Floor 2, you can cross perk weapons as well, like the FN file can be used on Commando and Sharpshooter, which is a good thing. I feel like it provides more weapons for every perk, but at the same time I feel like it sort of ruins the perk a little bit, like Berserker for example, which now has the Frost Fang. The only reason it is on Berserker is because of the axe on the front of it, and you can power with it, but Berserker does also have other ranged weapons like the Eviscerator, so I feel like that's probably fair. But again, it's a shotgun on a melee perk, which is a little bit weird, but I suppose it does have elements that fit Berserker, like parrying. All the classic Zeds return from Killing Floor 1, the Flesh Pound, the Clot, the Scrake. It even comes along with some new variants and new enemies. You got the Rioter, which enrages Zeds, making them faster and deadlier. The Rioter is basically a Clot, but with armour. Siths are slower and clumsy, but can grab players and hold on to them until the big Zeds arrive. Slashes are a lot faster than Clots and can do a lot of damage to you on higher difficulties. Elite Crawlers, apart from being a brighter colour to the Crawler, can also explode, dealing gas. Gore Fiends are pretty much gore fast with 2 blades and can spin attack you. Quarter Pounders are smaller flesh pounds with less health but are faster, come in larger groups. There's even a new Zed added called the Edar, which most people despise and so do I. You see, I would like the Edars more if they weren't so annoying, with Trapper Edars being the most aggravating, locking you in place. The other 2 variants are also arseholes. They pretty much just do nothing but fire lasers and rockets at you. And the only reason why Edars were added because they needed another Zed that could have range attacks. In fact, I do prefer Killing Floor 3's system of giving old Zeds range attacks. Kind of makes more sense than just adding robots in the game. The thing is, the robots don't even fit in the game really, because all the Zeds are like flesh. They're like basically produced in a lab, whereas E-Dolls are just like metal and bolts. It kind of takes away that apocalyptic feeling a little bit. And what makes E-Dolls even worse is their power core and their chest is actually their weakness. So with any other Zed, you shoot for the head and you basically kill them in one shot. But now you have to aim at the chest just to kill like E-Dolls, which is a bit annoying trying to trick shot in Zed time, as you have to basically look away from the head, just aim at the chest. It takes away that flow. And Zeds in Killing Floor 2 now have blocking mechanics like bloats who cover their heads with their cleavers when you try and shoot them for the head. Even Gore fiends use both of their blades to parry their incoming attacks. It can also be interrupted by the new bashing mechanic by punching Zeds. It basically stumbles them back enough to get a quick headshot in. If you aim for the right spot, you can also punch a Clot's head clean off, or any small Zed, in one hit. And Killing Floor 2 added 4 new bosses in total. The Abomination, which is pretty much just a bloke that runs at you with armor. King Fleshpound is a Fleshpound boss that does pretty much the same thing as the Abomination, just runs at you. Matriarch, who has E-Dolls, Plasma, and shot cannons. She's on shields. Basically Rachel Glimley from KF1. Hand is also a boss that looks weak, but also can be quite strong. He has multiple shields and phases. And of course, one old boss returns, which is the Patriarch. He has new attacks as well, like a mortar strike. So he shoots like rockets up in the air and just rains it down on you. And he can even move around corners in high difficulties while shooting the minigun. My only issue with the bosses in Killing Floor 2 is that they are a giant pushover. The Patriarch can be killed by blocking him when he goes to heal. King Fleshbound and Abomination can be killed by just outrunning them. They don't really have that much attacks that they can do. And the Matriarch, once a cannon and shield are down, is pretty much a piece of cake. I feel like a lot of this has to do with the overpowered weapons, like I mentioned before. Because now you've got guns that do so much damage. I mean, the bosses aren't really that difficult. Compared to Killing Floor 1, where the Patriarch could literally kill you in literally just a few hits on Hell on Earth. However, one of my favourite things about Killing Floor 2 is how the Zeds work in harder difficulties. On Hell on Earth and Suicidal, they have all new attacks. You even see some of the new variants of Zeds in high difficulties, like the Rioter. So the Crawlers now have like a jump roll attack, which is absolutely deadly in big groups. The Husk can actually use his cannon to suicide and blow you up. The Gore Fasts are a lot more aggressive and have like spinning attacks now. On Hell on Earth, Fleshpounds even have a chance of spawning Enraged, and some Zeds even have more of a chance of spawning. And of course you do get less ammo pickups and armour on the higher difficulties, although you do get a lot more XP. In terms of the blood and gore of Killing Floor 2, there's not really much I can say apart from it's great. The meat system, massive evisceration and trauma, is pretty damn good. In the dev diary, they even mention it's like 22 total Zed hit zones. The Zeds even have like a ton of unique animations where you shoot and slice them. You can see like Zeds getting decapitated, their spine splits, body parts get taken off. It's pretty damn cool. Persistent blood is also a feature. It never expires, so blood can cover an entire map. You can literally just paint an entire map in blood. Some Zeds even leave behind body parts like brains, guts, which you can like kick around as like a ragdoll. There's even an option in game as well to enable NVIDIA Flex, although it does take a massive hit on performance. You do get a lot more blood and fluids. It is insanely detailed and definitely something I recommend for beefy computers. To this day, the meat system does still hold up quite well actually, and I feel like it is further improved in Killing Floor 3. Although the more you play Killing Floor 2, you kind of don't notice it very much because you just get used to it, but it's definitely still a fun feature and it never gets old seeing as Zeds get blown up to pieces. Killing Floor 2 had some great maps. One of my favourites is Elysium, which isn't the best looking map ever, but the space and freedom to move is pretty good. Some areas like the Neon Maze are not great, however I have died in them multiple times. On the other hand, I do like maps like Barnwich Town, not in terms of layout, but the atmosphere. It does feel like a Killing Floor 1 map actually, that one. And the more that Killing Floor 2 went on, the more community maps we got instead of official ones, which wasn't bad, but some of them don't really fit the theme of the game, like Elysium for example. It was just completely random. Unfortunately, Killing Floor 2 did lose its horror roots the more the game progressed. Early KF2 had the DNA of the old Killing Floor. One thing I actually really like, looking back at the early access footage for the game, was they remade the Killing Floor 1 menu theme, which I wish they kept, but I don't mind the current menu theme. Also, it seems like the maps had a lot darker horror atmosphere in like the very early concept art for the game, except later on they seem to have left this behind for more of like a arcade shooter approach. The maps look cleaner, more wacky, they're set in like space and other dimensions, and what made Killing Floor 1 so special was the horror, the atmosphere. Everything was dirty, gritty, looked like a real apocalypse, but now every map is set in like a housing facility. It just looks a little too clean. If you compare the first and last level of Killing Floor 2, there is actually a huge difference. The Castle Volta was actually made by Tripwire, not a community map, but it just felt a bit bland and empty when you were playing it. The atmosphere and lighting isn't really too scary, but I still feel like Burning Paris, when it came out, still had elements of Killing Floor 1's horror. And also, the music and tone has changed massively. In Killing Floor 1, the music was a lot more ambient and horror themed. It still had some metal in there, whereas Killing Floor 2 has no ambient tracks anymore, which I don't mind as the theme and direction changed quite drastically. The music in Killing Floor 2 is definitely some of my favourite, like Demon Hunter, Living Sacrifice, Fit for a King, Impending Doom, especially if you listen to like the vocals in Killing Floor 2, it's pretty good. I even listen to those bands outside of Killing Floor as well, and even though I'm not religious, I still enjoy listening to their music. Synthetic also returns in Killing Floor 2 with some amazing seasonal music, like his carnival stuff. Rocky Gray even composes some stuff. I do like how in Killing Floor 2, Synthetic's tracks still stick to the Killing Floor 1 theme, even if the maps lost their horror roots later on. In terms of the story of Killing Floor 2, it takes place after the events of Killing Floor 1. As you know, in transit objective mode, you basically try and stop the outbreak from spreading to the continent. You take the train to Paris, and that's pretty much it. Nothing else happens. It seems like they've almost forgotten about the story and just focused on the gameplay, although the game was never story focused to begin with. However, they did have an objective mode in the game, just like Killing Floor 1, and it did have very little story in the game, but it was quite broken. It was hard to follow or get into. Killing Floor 1 also had very little story, but there were hints to show how the outbreak started, newspapers on the floor, Kevin on the wall in offices, which really adds to the lore. I feel like Killing Floor 2 doesn't really have that mystery to it. Killing Floor 3 has some story to it, it doesn't even follow on from Killing Floor 1 or 2. The story of Killing Floor in general is super broken. It's super hard to know what is actually legit, because nothing actually follows on from each other, apart from maybe Transit to Burning Paris. Again, it's not really a story game, Killing Floor, but I would also like a proper story that follows on from each other. The characters in Killing Floor 2 are well written with memorable voice lines and personalities. Some of them even return from Killing Floor 1, like Reverend Albert. You even got Foster, DJ Scully. Some characters even look different from Killing Floor 1, they've had a complete makeover. And the new ones were added, like Anna Donovan, Badass Santa. They still live up to the old characters. And each character even has unique voice lines for specific weapons, showing which guns they like the most, something you don't really see in any other Killing Floor game. The character design for each person is very different, also reflects their personality. Foster, of course, wears a suit to show his past daytime trader role, or Scully has DJ headphones for his DJ set. It adds a lot more personality and brings the character to life. There's even like hundreds of cosmetics you can apply to characters as well. A lot of them are compatible. There's plenty of characters to choose from as well in terms of the base game, although there is some characters you do have to purchase, like Badass Santa. I will say, if you do purchase a character, you won't be let down at all. I don't feel like there is any bad characters in Killing Floor 2. I mainly use Scully and Foster like all the time. I've never really used the others too much, but I would still say they're all great choices. So after the events of Killing Floor 1, you basically go to Paris, and you do have objective mode for Killing Floor 2. It works the exact same as Killing Floor 1. It's pretty linear progression, you do the same objectives every time. The thing is, with objective mode in Killing Floor 2, it's pretty much the same thing every single time for all 5 maps. And yes, there is 5 maps in objective mode, which was later abandoned. Killing Floor 2's objective mode can basically be summarised in 4 categories: escort, pads or a drone, protect an area, weld something, or even get a regular survival wave of just one Z type. It's actually just those 4 things over and over. It does get really boring and tedious. And whilst Killing Floor 1's objective mode is basically the same thing, they at least make it somewhat interesting. Holiday's Fright Yard, for example, makes you feel like you're trapped in like a twisted game show, which actually has like a unique twist. It gives the objective mode a bit more purpose, a bit more personality. Whereas Killing Floor 2's objective mode, it's literally just the same thing every time. You just go in, do some stuff, and that's it. They honestly do feel the same and play the same. One thing I do like about Killing Floor 1's objective mode, it was very different. Most of it was the same, like defend this, defend that. But Fright Yard had the gambling part where you had to try and get fuel out of the machines, which you don't see on any other objective mode map. Killing Floor 2 doesn't really have that uniqueness to it, it's just the same thing over and over again. And the trader for some reason only has 4 voice lines, which you literally hear 400 times. One of those being the infamous cockroach line, which I still remember to this day. And the objective mode story isn't even canon. It isn't really related to anything. There's no future expansion of objective mode. It was, again, like I said before, abandoned. So it doesn't even explain the how, what and why of it. It is very vague in some areas, like you just randomly find Kevin Clanley's son or something and nuked. Like it's just very broken, very vague. And again, like I was mentioning in the story part of the video, just doesn't add up to anything at all. Endless mode is also a brand new mode for Killing Floor 2. It basically does what it says on the tin. It's endless waves, as just said. It's pretty good for leveling up perks. It has random mutations like exploding Zeds or shrunken Zeds. You even get Pandemonium. There's also a boss every 5 waves, which increases in difficulty every 5-10 waves. With endless mode, you start off on normal, even if you choose high difficulty, and then every 5 or so waves it slowly goes up from hard to suicidal and then hell on earth. Endless mode also works with any map, even custom maps. Instead of the French trader, you get the Patriarch or the Hands as the trader, depending on which map you play. It's pretty straightforward, mindless fun, endless mode if you want like a relaxed time. Weekly mutations were later added in the game, which is pretty much similar to endless mode's mutations, except it's like a whole match. You got tons of mini game modes to choose from, like Protect the VIP, which is pretty much one player becomes like a VIP, you have to protect them. Got Bounty Hunt, where you have to hunt a certain Z. The one I played in the background footage is called a gun game. Basically shoot Zeds and basically get a random gun once you reach a target. There is no trader, so you have to find armor and ammo around the map. And once you collect 24 guns, you basically win. There is another mode where you do spawn as like a random perk, and every wave you become like a random perk from like one of the 10 existing perks in the game. And you did used to get rewards from it as well when they were new for the seasonal events, but I think they've given that out now to everybody, even if you got it or not. And for those of you who are new to Killing Floor, you've also got the training floor, which is not actually a thing in Killing Floor 1, but a thing in Killing Floor 2. It basically walks players through the basics, and though it doesn't really go into super crazy detail, I feel like it should have explained a little bit more, like Zed weaknesses or tips and tricks. But then again, it's just a basic introduction to the game. I think is very good for introducing new players. A lot more friendly than Killing Floor 1 when they throw you in the deep end and you end up getting screwed. Although they do have beginner difficulty, so I suppose that counts. Now, Killing Floor 2 is advertised as a 6-player co-op action game, so of course we do have to talk about the multiplayer. There are many people still playing this to this day. You can find a ton of games without any issues. You've got a server browser, basically filter by ping, difficulty, region, etc. When you're playing multiplayer, the scoreboards show ping and player health, which is especially useful as a medic, so you know who to heal. I'd say medic is the best perk for multiplayer, because without it, hell on earth would be impossible. You do need someone to heal, although players who are not medic can also buy medic pistols to heal other players, which is the main way to heal. You can still heal other people with a syringe or use medic grenades. You do only heal 25 health if you do use a syringe on yourself, and syringes can charge faster if you use it on others. Even perks like support are quite useful, because in multiplayer, people can actually get ammo off you. Even as demo, you can refill grenades. And I feel like this is where the perk like roles are actually starting to come to life. Because like I mentioned before at the start of the video, I felt like some of the perks have lost their distinct roles, and once they have a little bit, you do still sort of feel that like, old killing floor in a way, where perks have to rely on each other to take down like big Zeds, for example, or clear crowds of Zeds. And of course, with the Zeds being a lot harder in terms of health and amount per wave, you do need to rely on teammates to stay alive. And one of the best ways to communicate with your team, of course, is through text chat or an open mic. Although sometimes I kind of wish this game didn't have a text option. One of the most forgotten modes actually in Killing Floor is the Versus mode. It's basically Killing Floor's first PvP mode, where one team is the Zeds and the others plays the humans. It is unbalanced as hell, but does provide a fun competitive experience. It is unfortunately dead as of today, with no one really playing it at all. In my 1000 hours of playing this game, I've honestly played it for maybe 1.5 hours, that's it. There's hardly any servers, anyone hosting it at all, and you do need another player in order to play Versus mode. I personally wouldn't go out my way to play it, but if you want a competitive experience, then you go right ahead. As I've only started playing Killing Floor 2 in 2021, I can't really say how the events used to be, but from what I played before Killing Floor 2 ended, the events were okay. You had 4 new guns, 1 new map, tons of seasonal challenges. The seasonal events in Killing Floor 2 actually went from 4 a year to 3 a year, and then they just went to like 2 before Tripwire stopped supporting the game altogether. And looking at some of the old events from like 2017, it was obvious that more love and care went into them. There's like custom map exclusive music like Tragic Kingdom or Krampus Lair, whereas Emphatic did some amazing work with the Christmas music. These first events even had reskins of Zeds to fit the season like Halloween or Christmas, which pretty much was reused again for all of the Christmas events. And one thing I noticed towards the end of Killing Floor 2, a lot of the seasonal maps were just workshop ports. They were player created rather than Tripwire actually creating them. Whilst the maps don't look too bad at all, you notice they have a few reused assets on quite a few maps. Even some of these seasonal events didn't really fit the actual game itself, like Elysium for example, which is actually a Christmas map, funny enough, I don't know how. And for the final update, Last Hand Standing, the map was actually made by Tripwire, but it was a little bit bland and a little bit generic in my opinion, although it was made on Unreal Engine 3, which was released in 2006. If you compare this to Transit in Killing Floor 1 to Castle Volta in KF2, I really feel like they could have gone out with a bit more of a bang, because as you know, in Transit objective mode you fight 2 patriarchs at once, which is actually for the time quite cool. With Killing Floor 2's Castle Volta map, as it's the final map, it doesn't really do anything special apart from, of course, you fight hands at the end. The clocks have been reskinned to like hands, little clones, and that's about it really. I just feel like they could have done like a little bit more to basically end off the game. But also some of the seasonal events towards the end seem to be a bit random, as we just magically find the origin of hands all of a sudden. And this is where the story and context should have came in. If objective mode was still a thing, then this could have explained it a lot more, like how we actually found him, but instead it was a bit random, and again the story is just completely broken. Speaking of seasonal events, modding support was eventually added early to the game, which is where Tripwire later made some of the custom maps official. There's tons of custom maps in the workshop. Most popular is Bikini Atoll, which is pretty much a Bikini Bottom map from SpongeBob, just ported over to Killing Floor. They even have some Killing Floor 1 remasters as well, like West London or Manor. Workshop even offers characters, skins, custom weapons. One of my favourite things from the Killing Floor 2 workshop is actually a mod called Zternal, which completely flips Killing Floor 2's game mechanics on its head. It's pretty much an extreme version of Killing Floor 2 with new Zed attacks, stronger Zeds. It's got a whole new UI and interface. I feel like this mod was actually an inspiration for Killing Floor 3 in a way, which is really cool to see. In terms of modding support for the game, people still publish stuff on the workshop to this day, so you never really get bored of the modding support. It is honestly what keeps the game alive to this day. Without it, this game probably wouldn't have as many players as it does. There's tons of map variety and choices. Anything you can think of, the Killing Floor 2 workshop has it, mostly. Killing Floor 2 came out around the time when loot boxes were like really common in gaming, like around 2016. And just like CSGO or Team Fortress, players would basically purchase keys to open loot boxes and have random chances of getting a weapon skin. You could even craft cosmetics, even though materials aren't too common. Either way, it was always giving you bad cosmetics. Seasonal tickets were also a thing, which are actually free by playing the seasonal events when they were out. Players could even sell and trade cosmetics on the Steam marketplace. Although Killing Floor 2's marketplace prices aren't super expensive, most items you'll find on there go for less than £1. My most valuable item is a welder skin that's worth £2.19 or $2.95 for you Americans. One of the biggest issues I have with Killing Floor 2's marketplace is some people sell stuff like absolute hundreds. Like for instance, I was looking through the Killing Floor 2 Steam marketplace and someone's selling a pad backpack precious for £400. I wish I was joking. Obviously don't buy this, it's insanely overpriced. You can easily buy some for £2. Hell, when you actually inspected the overpriced items, it said there was like 20 other items just like it for like £2. So don't fall for this trick and buy it. I thought it's kind of pathetic what people are doing nowadays, because it's basically baiting new players into spending a load of money on stuff that doesn't even matter. Because if you're a new player, right, you think, oh, pad backpack precious, that actually sounds really good. And those people who don't know a lot about Killing Floor 2 marketplace might just buy that anyway. But honestly, don't buy it. No item in Killing Floor 2 is worth £400. You can actually buy it much cheaper. Clearly the people who advertise these cosmetics like £400 don't understand the worth of it. One of the most common cosmetics in Killing Floor 2 is the weapon skins. They actually have a worn status to them, like Battle Scarred, Field Tested, Precious. Battle Scarred, in my opinion, is the worst one, as the weapon skin is actually peeling off the gun, which kind of looks ugly but also gives it that Battle Scarred feeling to it, like you've been through a war. Field Tested is probably the best one, or one that isn't been used at all, I would say. But again, it's all down to personal preference. There is a vault system in the game as well that collects money for all your games and matches and places it in a vault. When you do reach a milestone, you do get a free loot crate that you don't actually need to buy keys for, although the cosmetics in the crate are complete garbage, as it is a free loot box, of course. Also, early in the weapons part of the video, I was mentioning about the paid DLC for Killing Floor 2, and it is a complete mess. There's basically 2 army passes for DLC weapons that could have just been under one pass. We even got a digital deluxe edition, which was released in 2015 by the way, only for Tripwire to release a separate ultimate edition upgrade 8 years later. It does add new content, but it could have been a part of one DLC, and so it doesn't sound too bad on paper until you add up all of the DLCs together. It comes up to £100 and 46p, with some DLC like the Ultimate Edition upgrade being £30 alone. There's just some outrageous prices with the DLC, which again I feel like could have been just under one DLC and made it a bit cheaper. Not to mention as well, if you actually want to buy the separate DLC guns, they go for £10 per DLC weapon. So say if you want to buy like the Mosin Nagant, for example, you actually have to pay like £10 just for one gun. Not unless you want to cough up 20 or so quid for the armory pass. And this is one of my biggest problems with this game. It's the monetization is just so over the top. It obviously just stuffed as much as they can into the game just to try and get as much money out of you as possible. Another thing that annoyed me at the time as well is that they made the seasonal exclusive cosmetics, the stuff that you can only get in seasonal events, free for everybody. Which doesn't sound bad on paper, but I remember one time in the Halloween events, I actually grinded for like hours to try and get this cosmetic, which now that I look at it, it wasn't worth it at all, but I did it at the time, and I feel like I really earned that cosmetic. But now they just made that free, everybody has it, regardless of how much work you put into it, and it feels like they're always screwing over the people who've actually earned them. Although again, you can argue it's fair for everybody as everybody gets the cosmetics. So after everything I've said, all the points I've made, is Killing Floor 2 a masterpiece? Killing Floor 2 does have the most weapons in terms of variety, maps, best characters, writing, music. It does also suffer from the aggressive monetization that's been stuffed in the game. Reused HRG weapons, pay-to-win DLC, abandoned modes like objective mode. Apart from that, Killing Floor 2 has a great gameplay loop, can be enjoyed pretty much forever. There's 5 prestige levels, 307 achievements. It's pretty much endless fun. There's tons of stuff you can do in the game. You can easily overlook the negatives and still have fun despite the issues. Killing Floor 2 to me is more than just a game. Because of Killing Floor 2, this channel is basically where it is today. Without it, I wouldn't even be making this video. I know most people found this channel through my Killing Floor content from all 3 games which I cover. And most of my friends who I talk to outside of YouTube in real life I met because of Killing Floor 2. And it's actually crazy to think that 90% of the people I've met are just from this game alone. I even discovered new bands like Demon Hunter, Living Sacrifice, new music just from playing this game. It's crazy to think about the impact some games can have on your personal life, and whilst I don't agree on some of the things Killing Floor 2 did, I will always appreciate what it gave me, the endless hours of fun and the opportunities it provided, even if Killing Floor 3 isn't performing so well nowadays. But yeah, this is the end of this very long video. Do let me know what you think. If you agreed or disagreed with some parts of this, then do let me know your thoughts. Don't forget to like and subscribe as always, and yeah, I'll see you all next time.